Hi, I'm Owen from Rask Australia. Thanks for tuning in to the Rask Network.
Before we get into today's show, there are a few things we have to go over.
Firstly, what you're about to hear and see is limited to general information only. It's not personal financial advice like you'd get from a financial planner. Also, it's important to remember that past performance is not indicative of future performance. That means that anything that's happened in the past, or we say today, is not necessarily going to reflect what happens in the future. Lastly, please consider that any of the guests or myself are featuring on this program may have a financial interest in some of the products or shares mentioned. That's enough from me. I hope you enjoyed today's program.
Welcome to the Australian Business Podcast. My name is Jordan Kidis and I'm the co-founder of Grace-Based Advisory, and today I'm joined by my business partner and partner in crime, Danil.
How are you guys? How are you? We're on the other side of the interview this time.
Yes. The roles have been reversed.
Yes, they have indeed.
Yes.
This is an eerie feeling. It's the first time.
For us
Congrats.
too.
It cropped so fast.
Didn't take long. 4 months and here we are.
Yeah.
I guess today we're interviewing Owen.
Yeah.
And we're talking about business coaches and why they can be useful. So, Owen, why did you get into coaching?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, guys. It was a bit of fun. So I haven't made this public yet until now. You guys know this has been in the works for a little while, but I started using a coach, I think it was last year. More a life coach, but informs my business. So everything that I do, work-life balance, whatever. And actually she reminded me last night how much progress I've made. You don't really see that when you're running a business or just living your life. So that was really cool. But I started doing it. I thought business coaches could have the tendency to kind of take advantage of business owners who maybe were unsuspecting or naive, because we all feel a bit lost. For me, having a life coach who then didn't have the business experience but helped me so much, I realized how powerful it is just to have someone who can relate and can be that kind of objective person. Because a lot of us who have family members may have family members that have some skills but maybe aren't impartial, like they have some sort of skin in the game and they have a bias. And then you may have family members who don't have the bias, or friends that don't have the bias but don't offer the good advice.
Yeah.
So it's hard to find someone that can be objective, call you out on things that maybe not call you out, but just keep you accountable to things that are important without you feeling emotionally charged towards them. And so I definitely had that. And as many of these podcast listeners will know, and you guys know, I love small businesses, whether they're on the stock exchange, investing in them, private businesses, running my own. That's why I wanted to move into business coaching, because I have a lot of imposter syndrome myself. But at the same time, over the years, I've realized more and more businesses and people are coming to me and asking for things like whether it's marketing help, building websites, branding, software, integrations, these types of things, which I've always taken for granted, whether it's my study or my background, finance, and they need more and more help. And I actually find that even last night, my partner was saying to me that she hasn't seen me as happy as when I have spoken to one of these businesses and how excited I get by that. Because I think when you have a small business, I will go into it in a minute, I'm rambling, I know, but when you have a small business, the potential for positive change is significant. And that's why I wanted to do it, because I didn't have to. Sometimes you get in the trenches as a coach or a mentor or advisor, but you don't necessarily have to be the one that does it every single day. But you can lend support having done that yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you don't need to be, super, super involved in the business. And like you said, it's someone to call, someone to lean on when you're not sure of things. Because when we go into business, being a business owner ourselves, it can be hard sometimes, especially if it's just you and you've got no one to talk to. You're going in all alone. To have that voice there, it can make a huge difference in your personal life as well, because it's going to make you less stressed.
Well, yeah. So we're talking about this, I think this morning when we were recording some other episodes. As a single, a single founder kind of, I don't like to use myself as a founder. Solopreneur.
Yeah.
really struggle sometimes because I don't have, like I've got a couple of shareholders now, but personally, like in the past, like they've always been silent, and I've actually had to like fight for my shareholders to be part of the company, not because they saw it as a good investment. I just wanted them to basically have some skin in the game so I could call them every now and again and be like, hey, what do you think of this? And they've been great for that. But for the most part, I am in the trenches alone. Like at least in the early days, I was really alone. And had I had someone like the two of you guys have got, where you got like two people that are experiencing similar things but have different skill sets or complementary skill sets, I'm so envious of that.
Yeah, well, a lot of our problems are solved just by talking, right? It's really important to have that soundboard of to even get the confidence to action certain things, because a lot of what we do come with risks and potential downfalls, whether it's monetary, whether it's, potentially losing clients or losing interest, losing, listeners for whatever reason it is.
Yep.
So having someone to be able to bounce ideas off and talk through problems, I think it's crucial. So, we've been very, very fortunate in that sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think having two people is a godsend, and I think that if it is just you, like you said, if you can reach out to family and friends, but I guess that can only get you so far until you do need to reach out to a professional.
Yeah, we're saying that. Like even you guys have, like Jordan, you have a business coach. I don't know, is it for both of you or?
Yeah, we're both doing it, but I sort of attend. It's more of a group coaching type of thing. So we attend calls. It's sort of a course as well where we run through the content, and then there's a weekly Q&A call. And it's just good because they're all of the students, if you want to call them that, or other people in this course or this program, they're all in our industry. So it's really good to hear these problems that other businesses are having. And for me, it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I've never thought about something like that. So I think that's a really good for us anyway, because again, even though we've got the two of us, we only know what we know. So having external parties there as well and to hear what they're doing and I guess how they're organizing their business is fantastic, especially because it's in the same industry. But yeah, she's been fantastic. Couldn't be happier with her and the outcome so far, because it's just helped us go into different areas and reach out to different people and just think a different way. So that's been fantastic. What has I guess your business coach helped you with the most?
Probably is just the continuity of like strategy. So as business owners and when you're growing, I feel like there's a tendency to get a bit of shiny object syndrome, but you also get, if it's not so much that, you get bogged down in the minutia. Like every day you're like, I'm going to move this big rock today. And then you don't get to that because there's all these little ones you got to get to and the fires you got to put out. Whereas, so I catch up with her once a month. It used to be once a fortnight. And I could probably do a little bit more often if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But I use that monthly check-in as a chance to basically front up and be like, I said this last month and here's where I'm at with that. Because for me, like, I think you guys know this, but I see a psych as well, which is something different. And so my understanding of it is that a coach should always be a bit more goal-oriented, whereas the psychs are totally different things, more like personal stuff. So I don't have to bring that to the table, although sometimes coaches deal with that because the business is a big stress or a big, I guess, drain on people's emotions day to day. So for me, it's kind of like an opportunity just to be like, here I am, here's what I've achieved. And there's no like judgment necessarily. It's just more like, okay, well, here's the opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
And how can we grow from there? And that's what's been amazing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about how sort of the business is a lot of business owners' life as a whole. It's almost like a personality type.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So I know for us, we're super passionate about what we do. So we live, we breathe, our values, the business itself. A lot of the conversations we have are always around business, even around the work, what we can do more. It follows us even when we're, off the clock, really. And I know a lot of small business owners are the same, like yourself. You're
always ticking. You're always ticking. The interesting thing was how you're able to separate it. You have the psych for, I guess, the personal stuff, and then the business coach, where you can really, I guess, strip it back and focus on the one thing.
Yeah. So, and what I've realized is everyone's different. Yeah. So like with coaching, I kind of had this like coach, mentor, advisor, while that might all seem the same, they're actually quite different. So with, say, a mentor, what you're basically getting is someone who has the domain experience. You're kind of getting some type of like guidance. Same with an advisor, you're kind of getting someone, I've got industry experience, here's my advice.
Yeah.
Whereas with a coach, it's kind of prompting the person to get the best out of themselves. So those three things are more business focused. The psychs can be help with that too. Like they can do life coaching as well, typically if they're psychs or counselors or whatever, but they're quite different and you probably, you want them for different things. But what I found with coaching, it's more like, how can I help you get the most out of yourself and your business? And it's a very selfless thing, which is kind of cool. Take no credit, but just kind of help people and guide them and prompt them and give them some advice and feedback when they need it. And for me, that's awesome. What I've been surprised by is how much some coaches can charge, if I'm honest. Like you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we see it all the time. And I think it's a really touchy subject sometimes on, how much you should pay a coach, how much value they can bring. And, it's always going to be sort of an open-ended conversation of how do you determine who's a good coach and who's not a good coach.
Yeah, and especially in terms of paying for it, when there's no right way to do it, or I guess range. It can really go from zero to sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And I think the problem with the coaches that charge too much is that they sometimes can prey on a business owner who isn't experienced, and they may think that's normal.
Yeah.
And I think that's really disappointing, lack of a better term, because you're taking advantage of someone, and I just don't think that's good at all. Especially because that person is trusting you to make them better or make their business better.
Yeah.
It's not good at all.
We were just talking about like a case in point, and that's probably like that one out of however many that give everyone else a bad name. But
for sure. I mean, I've got other clients that use a business coach, and they couldn't speak more highly of their business coach. And I know that coach as a person, and he's a fantastic guy. So there are people out there that genuinely want to help people like yourself, and not just people trying to rip people off.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, that's a reality in the industry.
Yeah.
And it's just really important that people do their own due diligence and make sure that person, try and find testimonials or whatever it may be, to make sure that the person they're dealing with is a good person.
Yeah.
Do you think it's important to know the why of why you're looking for a coach, or why that coach, can benefit you?
It's interesting you say that, because so I'm still developing this program that it won't be the same for everyone, like not in any way. But the first thing that I start with is the why are they in business? Mm-hmm. So of the calls that I've had so far, people just randomly, I don't know if they just found my website or they just Googled, because the website's been live for a little while. I just haven't told anyone about it other than you guys. Maybe Monique's seen it. A couple of other people have seen it. I don't know if they just Google it and they come up with it. Maybe there's like a stray link here or there. But the first session is always the why session for them. And because I don't think I'm going to turn it into something massive. I only want to deal with a very few number of clients because I just don't have capacity. But two, I only want to do it where I think I can add value. So if it's not the right fit, I'm not going to proceed. And so typically I would imagine the people that the first person that found me just found me out of, like, I don't even know where. Just came to me and they're like, oh, they listened to the second episode of this podcast, which has nothing to do with coaching whatsoever. It's about business failure. She's like, you said in that episode people should reach out to you if they're in crisis mode. Not crisis, but like if they're struggling. And, lo and behold, that's how she connected with me. But like that was clearly like right place, right time. But I think what I'm going to guess, and I'm going to say, this is going to sound pretty bad, but I'm going to guess and say more females will reach out to me over the next year than males, because I think stereotype and more open, typically more open to the feedback. I was definitely one of these guys where now I'm like seeking as much as I can. You guys do this really well. Like honestly, really, I don't think I've come across, not to butter your own bread too much here, but don't think I've come across anyone that I know of that is open to so much feedback and wants to try things. Like you guys are like, you're down here in Melbourne from Sydney doing the podcast, maybe Queenie's who you know.
Yep.
She's really good at that. But a lot of people aren't really outwardly open to receiving feedback. So I think that's the first step is you've got to know, am I open and do I want to actually take on board? Because otherwise don't pay for the service, right?
Yeah.
Like don't be one of those people that sign up and then don't do it. The second thing I'd say is like, I'm guessing, because it's early days, the two types of people that will come to me and business owners will be one, the person who has a business already, so not really people that are starting out, but a business already, but wants to scale quickly, scale online and scale their brand. And the other one, which could be more interesting, is I think the other one will be the one where their business is like out of control, like as in a bad way.
Yeah, like help me.
Yeah, help me now. I need help.
Yeah.
And both of those are extremely interesting to me, to be honest, because there's some instances where there's so much low-hanging fruit because no one actually has been in there with objective set of eyes and been like, well, I can see in your zero statement, I don't even need to know what your business does, but I can see there's a problem right here.
Yeah.
Like I wish someone did that to me 18 months ago, 2 years ago, et cetera. I just was like, this.
Yeah.
How does that get there?
Yeah.
Not to say that it's like a confronting conversation, but it can be revealing and then you work backwards. Yeah. So I think those are the two camps. People that are really wanting to scale, maybe been in business a couple of years, got by, but want to make more money. And the second one is like, I need help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super interesting as well because you're going to get, I guess, two polar opposite worlds. One where you can step in, make those quick changes and see the results pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, I guess you're still seeing those results quickly, but we're talking about a business staying afloat.
Yeah.
As opposed to going to that next level. They may be there and it could be a small thing that they need to tweak or change. But like you said, they haven't gone over that.
Yeah.
They just need a different set of eyes. So I think either way, it's going to be super rewarding.
What I've done so far when I hand my proposals over is I basically have short-term challenges or opportunities and long or medium-term challenges and opportunities. And it's basically like a sprint to get those short-term done. And most of the time, if I could it's early days, but what I can tell you I've seen so far is like it's really cleaning up business fundamentals. So like working with people like yourselves, maybe they don't have an accountant or the accountant's a passive accountant where they get contacted every quarter. Here's your thing. See you in 3 months kind of thing. So maybe it's like getting them help that way. Maybe it's like just education on like, hey, did you know that, you've got this loan, but you should probably get rid of it, or you've got this thing that we could remove. You probably don't need your office, or you could relocate to this and it'll be cheaper. Like understanding how business impacts the financials and why they're always wondering why they don't have any money. I think that is a common theme already. And the big one, I think that I'll be able to help particularly a lot of like content creators or online brands work with is honestly, it's just commercially, like helping them be like, make more money.
Yeah.
Converting that online presence to actual cash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think you've done that fantastic, sort of monetizing your following and, going through that process. And I think it's such a crucial skill that a lot of content creators need to learn and need to know, because a lot of the content is fantastic, and unless you're monetizing it, it's hard to keep it going long term.
Yeah, that's right. And no matter how many followers you've got, whatever your engagement is, if you're not monetizing it, well.
Yeah. What I found is like, so you say that I've still got a lot of work to do. I realize that. And I look at other people and not get envious, but I get I guess excited by what they're doing as well. And so I see a lot of that. But I also, my background is being an investment analyst for 10 years, studying businesses and studying people. And so I get to see what happens when businesses mature and some of the things that the CEOs at the time or the leaders at the time wish they didn't have a problem with, but they could have solved. Like the person who was running it 6 years ago could have been like, I just made one tweak. And that's kind of the stuff you don't really notice up front, but it's really important down the line. So I'm hoping to help with that sort of stuff. And I've got a lot of these teething issues myself, and a lot of businesses do. And hopefully this podcast helps a lot of people, not just this episode, maybe not this one so much, but the other ones.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just, like you said, putting yourself out there for feedback. I think that's so important. No matter what you do, take on other people's opinions and what they think. And while you might not agree with everyone, I'm sure you'll find it a golden nugget, whether it's this podcast, another podcast, a book, whatever your domain is. It's just so important as a business owner in your, whether it's early stages or mid-cycle or at the end of your business cycle. It's so important to be okay with feedback and to take feedback.
Yeah, well, hopefully this podcast is a good sort of conversation starter for a lot of people to, even if they're feeling a bit overwhelmed sometimes, where a bit of anxiety starts creeping in, to be able to be comfortable to speak to someone. Like, even if you're not comfortable speaking to someone you already know in your circle, there are people out there who can help as well. Because there's a bit of a sort of stigma behind that, you're fine, keep it to yourself, go through the motions, you can work through it, you're all right.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just need a conversation.
It's interesting because the people, I would say, in my life that have been the most successful in their job or in their work are the least likely to come forward with information. It's not because they're bad people. It's just because, I don't know, maybe they just don't do it. And so I get like the emotional support from the parents or whatever, you get like, you're doing a great job. I love what you do. And they're like, you track down and you see like your number one fan on YouTube is your mum or something like that, but at the end of the day, like not everyone has a good environment around them and to make those decisions, or people with the experience. And ultimately that's what we all want. We just want to make more profitable businesses. So that's exciting. And to be able to play a role in that is really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. For sure. And I guess the last question that we have, where do you expect to see the best results? Like where would a client expect to see the best results if they were to work with you or come on board with you?
I think I'm going to have the best results with like micro-sized businesses. So under 10 employees, definitely. Because that's where I want to work. Because like idea formation, branding, these types of things like market research and analysis to like craft strategy, I think that's where I can have the most impact. Like I've done some consulting stuff in the past where it might be, to teams or to whatever, just speaking to large groups. And that's wonderful because you get to impact people. But actually seeing like a strategy implemented with a small business, it's like awesome. Like that's probably the most exciting thing that I can think of in like a professional lens. And you guys get to do this, I imagine, a lot because you see it from the back end as well, right? You get to see the financials and meet with the person. And so I think that is where I'll have the most impact. And in particular, types of clients that I think I'd have the most impact with are businesses that take their brand very seriously. So what I mean by that is like I love grabbing a hammer and working on the house and helping friends out around their house. And I love that being like working around trades and stuff, but I'm not, tradie. So I don't have that domain expertise. Yeah. But where I do have expertise is like software, like any online business, content creation, media, audio, visual, branding, any of these types of businesses where you can see an online future. I think that's a really exciting part for me. So that's small content creators type businesses. And to be honest, guys, I only want to work with like less, like a 3 or 4 businesses at a time. So it's not like it's not like a massive money thing. Yeah. It's more just like, I just want to learn.
Yeah. And it sounds like
with people.
More of a passion thing as well to help people.
Yeah. Well, Receive Rask is still my main gig, right? Yeah. So I just want to learn as much as I want to help. So if I can do that while running my own business, then that's awesome.
For sure. And I think you will. I think you do great. I mean, you ran us through how to help. Today we've switched the roles and you ran us through how to do that with a crash course in 15 minutes. Yeah. And like the passion that you have is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, it's actually the listeners don't know, but it's actually, there's the audio tied to the front of this episode. So like you asked me to record it so that we chopped up for this episode, but you can actually hear, you guys will be able to play it back, how we conduct the interviews. And see, that's an example. Like I think podcasting is basically like the Netflix of radio. So like the future is a way to engage in the medium, but this medium is definitely not right for all businesses because not all businesses need, like you wouldn't have a cafe that does a podcast on like the weekly roast or something like this. If someone clicked on that podcast, they'd probably think it's about roasting something, like roasting people or roasting a ham or something. Yeah. But there are certain types of like mediums that get me really excited about the technologies and how we can leverage them for small businesses in the future, which is kind of exciting. So yeah, that's just an illustration, but it's super exciting. And you guys did really well with your first interview, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like I honestly, honestly, it's really good.
Cool.
Congrats.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just don't know how to wrap it up.
Yeah, we had a good teacher, but we didn't get this far into the teaching.
Yeah, well, maybe, you can say thanks for listening, thanks for joining us, something like that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Owen, mate, thank you for joining us on your own podcast. It's been a pleasure interviewing you, and hope to see you next time.
Well, thanks, Danil. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Jordan.
Awesome. Thank you.